this episode, we are going to continue with the components that allows us to be able to create a group channel. And so this is where we left off the last episode. We were able to create this navigation logic and this chat partner row selection and deselection logic. In today's episode, this is what we're going to be focusing on. And so we have the completed project on this left simulator here. And when you click on the new group and you click on selecting individual items, we have this selected section, this section that shows the selected people that we actually want to chat with. And so we're going to be building out this section in this episode. We're going to be handling the navigation title logic. As you can see, when you select an item, the number of selected items at the title of the screen changes. So it changes to 6. And when we deselect an item, it subtracts that deselected item. Also, we're going to be building a screen which just adds the list of selected chat items, chat partners, and also allows us to be able to create a name for our group chats. And so let's jump right into Xcode and get started with some business. The first thing I'm going to do is create a stop data that allows us to be able to, mimic this functionality that we have on the left simulator here, which is being able to select multiple different items. So right now, what we have going on is we have a single placeholder. So I'm going to create another stop data and I'm going to call it placeholders. So I already copied this over. I would advise you guys to pause the video and, get this placeholder data, which is just, an array of user item that we're going to use in our project for now before we actually start fetching users from our backend. And so with this done, we are going to jump right back into our add group chat partner screen. And so as you can notice, that's a little bit of a mouthful. I honestly think that's just a terrible name. So I'm going to rename the screen to something else. And I'm going to right click, refactor, rename, and I'm going to call it group chat. I'm just going to say group partner picker screen. Group partner picker screen. I think that sounds like a better name. I don't know what you guys think, but I think we're going to go with that, group partner picker screen. And so now that we've renamed that, let's move on with our business. The first order of business is, like I said, for us to create the section that is going to go in here. And so I'm going to resume the preview. I'm going to replace the items in this for each with the placeholders that we just created. So if you remember, we created this placeholders right here that I told you guys to pause, which is just an array of user item. So I'm going to replace the for each in the group partner picker screen with that. And so it's just going to be user items, the placeholder like that. And it's an array. And so now we should have an array of items. And the first thing I'm going to do is this chat partner picker view, chat partner row view. I'll remove the placeholder and I'll replace it with the item that's coming from inside of our for each. And so let's wait for this to load. I think we need to do the same thing for here as well. Inside of the function, let's replace it with the actual user. And look at that. Now we have a list of good stop data. Okay, so when we select each of these individual items, as you can see, it just says user selected. Well, we need to build out this specific, section right here. And if you take a look at it, it looks like just an H stack. It looks like an H stack with a scroll view as the parent container. And so I would like for us to create a micro view to just endo that. So I'm going to go to the bottom of our, file, and I'm going to create another new struct. I'll call it, actually, you know what? Let's create a new file for this. Yeah, let's create a new file for this. Let's create a new file and let's call it SwiftUI file. And we're going to call it selected chat partner screen, right? I think that's a pretty good name. Actually, this is not a screen. This is a view. Sorry, guys. Remember the pattern that we agreed on earlier in the, earlier in the project. So I'm going to call it selected chat partner view. And selected chat partner view is just going to be an horizontal scroll view. So we do scroll view, we'll pass in the horizontal axis. And I don't want to show the indicators, so I'll say show indicators as false. And like I said, it's just an H stack. And the H stack has what? So if we exit out of Xcode and we jump straight in here, the H stack just has a V stack. Each individual element is just a V stack. So we have a circle, we have a text, and we have some sort of a cancel button that would allow us to be able to deselect the item. And so let's jump right into building that out. And so as usual, I'm going to create a function just to make this readable. I'm going to call it, I don't know, item view, or maybe just, chat partner view. And it's going to take in a user. And of course, it's going to give us our view. And as we've established, it's just a VStack. And, let's use a circle for now as a placeholder. And we're going to give it a frame and a width of, 60, height of 60, right? And let's give it a text. And let's just call the text user.username. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this chat partner view here. But actually, we need to create a for each. Let's just loop this. And so let's just create a for each. Let's use a stop data from user item. So I'll use user item. That placeholders with the S, and the user is going to come in here. You could call it user, you could call it item. It doesn't really matter. I like to just call it item. So item in, and then it's going to be chat partner view. We'll pass in our user item, and as you can see, we have a scroll view here, an horizontal scrolling scroll view. And I think that's pretty much what we need for now. I'll probably change the fill color of this to like something like gray. Let me see what that looks like. I think that looks good. All right, what else do we need? Well, we need a cancel button. So I'm just going to throw an overlay here. Overlay, and I'm going to do alignment of maybe top trailing, I believe. And I'm going to come right down here and create an actual cancel button. Again, a private function. And it's going to return some view, and it's just going to be a button with a label as always. All right, so what's the label? Well, the label is just going to be an image with a system name of xmark as always. And let's make the image scale small. Let's make the foreground style white. Let's make the font weight semi-bold. Let's give it a pattern of 5. Let's change the background color to something like color.systemGray2. Let's give it a clip shape of circle. And so now I'm going to put this cancel button right up here on the overlay. And look at that. That pretty much matches what we have in mind. And I think that's pretty much it for this section. So now I'm going to take this selected chat partner view. I'm going to go to the group partner picker screen. And instead of this text as placeholder, I'm going to pass this right in here, and I'm going to execute that. And so now when we select an item, look at that. We have this functionality right here, which looks absolutely gorgeous, by the way, guys, right? But now we need to be able to match the actual selected item to the, to the item that we're actually showing. So instead of using the placeholders, we are going to pass in an argument into the selected chat partner view. And what do we need? We need an array of users. So I'm just going to say users, which is the selected users, is just going to be an array of user item. And of course, the preview is going to yell at us. So I'm going to fix that. And I'm going to use placeholders. Okay. Shouldn't yell at us anymore. Well, let me just put user in front of it. User item. It just probably couldn't infer it. Okay. So now we're going to jump right back to our group partner picker screen. It's going to yell at us for selected users. And the selected user is in the view model. So I'm going to say view model dot selected chat partners. And so let's see what happens. And so now when we select, let's say Michael. Oh, we're still having something going on here. Let's go back to our, sorry about that, guys. Selected chat partner view. We're still using it in the for each, which we don't want to do that. We want to use the users now, right? And let's go back to our group chat partner picker screen. And so let's select Michael. And look at that. We have Michael. If we select Bob, we have Bob. If we remove Bob, Bob goes away. Let's say we select Jen Doe. You see we have that. Let's say we select Osas. Osas stays there. If we select David, David is all the way at the end. And if we remove Osas, Osas goes away. Jen Doe goes away. Bob goes away. So now we're able to see the actual selected users. And if we remove the last item, as you can see, it nicely animates thanks to this animation modifier that we're applying right here. So that is actually great. That's a great progress. The other thing I would like for us to do is to do the, the deselection animation. So I would like for us to be able to click on this cancel button in this selected chat partner view and actually deselect that specific user. And the way for us to do that is we could just do a simple a closure, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to go into our selected chat partner view again. We're going to create a trailing closure, and I'm going to call it let's untap handler. Okay. And this, trailing closure is just going to take in a user, the user that we actually want to deselect or we want to remove from the array. And of course it's closure. So we return a void. Okay. And now what do we need to do? Well, pretty simply, we are just going to add a, let's think here for a second. So we have the for each, right? And all we need to do is go inside of this cancel button and say untap handler and pass in the user. But then this cancel button needs to know the user that we actually want to remove. So we're going to say the cancel button also takes in a user, which is a user item. And again, this is pretty easy because the cancel button is inside of this chat partner view, which also has the user, has access to the current user or the selected user. So we just pass in that user. Okay. And now Xcode is going to yell at us because it's expecting this untap handler, the closure. So we're just going to pass that in. We're going to say user in. Okay, I love the trailing closure syntax, by the way, guys. It's so clean. All right, let's jump back to our group partner picker screen. And now we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to say user in, which is this is the selected user. This is the user. Basically, when we click on that cancel button in the selected chat partner view, so when we click on this cancel button, we want it to fire this closure. And the simple way for us to do that is we're just going to say view model dot handle item selection and user. And check this out, guys. So if we say Jen Doe and we click on that, look at that. Beautiful. If we click Smith, let's click multiple items just to make sure. Let's remove Bob. Look at that. Let's remove Jane Smith. Look at that. Let's remove John Doe. What about Michael, Eller, Alice? And look at that. That is working. So that's great news, guys. And let's get out of Xcode really quickly and see what else we need to do. And so we have basically handled this selection logic and deselection logic. The next thing for us to do is to handle the navigation title. And as you can see, the navigation title, the principal, has a VStack, which is the add participant title, and the number of selected items. And then it has the next button and the trailing navigation item. So we're going to do that really quickly. And the way to do that is to add a toolbar modifier to our group partner picker screen. So we're going to come down here and do toolbar. And as always, I like to create my toolbars and extensions. So I'm going to create an extension on group partner picker screen, and I'm just gonna, build out the toolbar. And the first one that I want is I want the principal. So I'm gonna call it title view, and it's gonna return some toolbar contents. And that toolbar content is just going to be a toolbar item with a placement of principal. So this is gonna put it right in the center over here. And the content is going to be a VStack. So we have a VStack, and the first text is going to say something like add participants. And before we do anything, let us take this title view, drop it inside of our toolbar closure. Look at that. We have our add participant title. Let's make it bold. Okay. Let's wait for it to bold up a little bit. There we go. And the next thing for us to do now is to, let's see. So we have that. Now we need a text that shows the selected chat partners count. So we need something like this, that says something like 10/12, something like that. Yeah. So we need the foreground color, the foreground style to be gray. We need the fonts to be footnotes because we want the fonts to be very small. So let it load. There we go. So something like that. That is more in line with what we have in mind. And what is going on here? Yep. Okay. So now let's do, how do we get the number of selected chat partners? So when we select 1, 2, we want that number to increase and decrease based on this selection. And it's going to be pretty simple. The first thing I'm just going to do right in here, I'm going to say let's count is equals to view model dot selected chat partners dot count, right? And then I want a max count. So I'm going to create max count as equals to 12 for now. And the way to do this is we're going to do a little bit of a string concatenation, if that's the word. So we're going to have counts, and then we're going to have another slash, boom, boom. We're going to have max count, and let's see what that looks like. Let's wait for the Xcode preview. All right, let's select 1. Look at that. 2, as you can see, that number increasing. And if we remove an item, look at that. Because we are matching it to this array inside of our view model, which is called the selected chat partners array, which we're increasing and decreasing when we actually select a new chat partner. So another thing I would like for us to do is let's create an enum right up here for our channel constant. So I'm just going to call it enum channel constant. And I just can't spell. And what I want us to do here is I want us to have a maximum potential chat partners for a group. So right now we have an infinite amount of potential chat partners that we can add. And if you can see in the completed project, there's actually a limit. You can only add 12 chat partners to a specific new channel. And so if we select another one, as you can see, we display this error. We only allow a maximum of 12 participants in a group chats. So I'm adding that limitation because you will see later down in the coming episode, as we start to build out the channels, it actually makes sense for us to add some sort of a limitation to a group chats. Of course, you can increase the number from 12 to whatever you want it to be, but I'm just using 12 because it's a dozen and it's just an arbitrary number for me. And so I'm going to do maximum group participants is equals to 12. Okay. So now I'm going to take this channel constant. I'm going to go back to the chats, the group partner picker screen. And so instead of just using 12, I'm going to do that as channel constants that maximum group participants. Okay, so let's make sure everything is still working as expected. And it is. All right, so we have built out the title view. Let's do the same thing for the next button. So I'm going to do toolbar content builder again. I'm going to call it trailing nav item. I'm going to return some toolbar contents. And this time around is going to be a toolbar item again with a placement of trailing. And what are we doing this time around? Well, we need something to show us the next button. And the simple way to do that is just using a button, of course. So we're going to have a button with a next as title. And, we're going to make sure the button is bold. And we're going to take this trailing nav item. We're going to, put it inside of our toolbar closure. And as you can see, the next button is always enabled. But if we go inside of our Xcode simulator, this next button is actually not enabled until you've actually selected a user. So if you look at that, it looks disabled, which it is disabled when a user is not selected. But when we select a user, it becomes enabled and we can actually go to the next screen. So let us actually make that functionality also possible. And the quickest way for us to do that is to actually jump inside of our chat partner picker view model and create some sort of a computer property that we can use. And we're just going to call it disable next button. So just like the show selected users, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say disable next button. And it's going to be a Boolean. And I'm just going to return, I don't know, selected chat partners dot is empty. And so if the selected chat partner is empty, we're going to disable the next button, which sounds very logical, right? And so we're going to go back to our screen. And now I'm going to add the disable modifier, and it's just going to be view model dot disable next button. So let's wait for the preview. Look at that. It's disabled. If we click on that, it's enabled. If we remove it, it's disabled. If we enter many, many, many users, and then we remove all of them, look at that. It's disabled again. And so that's a very brilliant approach and a very nice, clean way for us to handle that functionality. The next thing on the agenda for us is to actually handle the navigation to the next screen. And it's going to be very easy. We're just going to say view model dot navigation stack dot append the setup group chat screen. And if you remember, if we jump into this navigation stack, remember this, this navigation stack that we created earlier, which is just this route here, this channel creation routes. We have this add group chat members and set up group chats case. And by the way, guys, I'm going to just rename this case from add group chats to the group partner picker. So I'm going to right click, refactor, rename it to group partner picker, because that's the name of the screen now, group partner picker screen. All right, so let's go back to our group partner picker screen, make sure our SwiftUI preview is working. And now let's make sure this next button is actually triggering the navigation. So if we click a user and we click next, well, this is not working right now because this navigation stack is actually not routing. It's in the preview. And the way for us to make sure it's working is to go to the chat partner preview instead. So the chat partner picker screen, in that preview, let's click on new groups. Let's select a user. Let's click on next, and look at that. We are navigation. We're handling navigation. So let's go create the screen. And by this screen, I'm referring to the screen in the completed project that looks like this. So not this one right here, which is when we select a user, we click on next button, we have this, screen that allows us to be able to configure the group chat's title. And I'm just going to call it, I'm going to create a new SwiftUI file, and I'm going to call it group setup screen. So maybe new group setup screen. New group setup screen sounds like a good name. All right. And so what is the new group setup screen? Well, it's also a list. So if we jump right out of Xcode and we take a look at this, it's also a list with 2 or 3 different sections. And as you can see, the good news is we're going to be able to reuse this section that we just built, which is the selected chat partner section. And we're just going to start building out this screen. So I'm going to say list. And what do we need for this list? Well, we need a section. And this section, I'm referring to this right here. So that looks like an H stack with a circle and a text field. So pretty simple enough. And the first thing I'm going to call it is, I'm just going to call it channels, I don't know, I'll just call it header view, private func, maybe channel setup header view, or group chat setup header view. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. And it's just an H stack. And I'm just going to use a circle as a placeholder for now. And what does the circle do? Well, we have a frame with a width of, actually, let's do a width of 60, height of 60. What else do we need? We need a text field. So let's give it a text field. And the text field is going to have a couple of things. But before we do anything, let's take this channel setup header view. Let's place it inside of our section. And let's start adding the parameters that we need for our text field. So, I'm just going to put the text parameter. And the text parameter, we need a channel name. So I'm just going to create a state variable up here. I'll call it state private var channel name is of type string. Well, let's just give it a empty string for now, right? Yeah, I think that feels right. So we have our channel name. We're going to say $, channel name. What else do we need for this text field? We need a prompt. So we need a prompt. Let's make sure we put a comma on that. And the prompt is just a placeholder. And what we want in this situation is something that says group name is optional. Group name optional. And we want the axis to be vertical. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We need to put a comma on this so the preview would stop yelling at us. What are we missing here? It says we're missing something here. And what is that? No, we are not. That's just the preview tripping. All right, guys, let's go right back to our new group setup screen. Sorry about that. All right, so we have our first section built out. The other thing that we need to do is, of course, create another section inside of our list. And this section is going to say, it's going to have 2 text components. The first one is going to say disappearing messages. And I'll just copy, well, I don't need to copy that. Create another text component that just says group permissions. And I'll just leave it at that. I think that looks pretty good enough. And if we go right back to our Xcode, our simulator, to see the completed project. So then we have this other section that has the selected partner picker view, or the selected partner, what do we call it? Selected chat partner view. So we need to display that in another section right here and with an header view. And that's going to be very easy as well. We're just going to create a section that has an header. So we're just going to say section, header. And the header is going to have text that says participants. And let's just say something like 12 and 12. Again, that's not necessarily correct. 12 and 12. Okay. We'll come back to that. Let's make the text bold. And then let's pass in our selected. So selected chat partner. Selected chat partner view. It's going to ask for users, which is very easy. It's just a view model. Oh, okay. Yep. So we need, before we do that, let's just use our placeholders for now. Placeholders. Okay. If we click into this, it's going to ask for user. Well, it's going to give us back a user. Let me expand Xcode all the way. I'm just going to say user item, the placeholders, just so we can see what we're working with. And look at that. So we need to change the background on this. We need to remove this background, this white background color. And the simple fix for that is just to remove the background color for the entire row. So I'm going to say list row background. And I'm just going to give it a color, the clear. So that's going to remove that white color. There we go. And that's more in line with the completed project. So if we go back to the actual, source code or the completed version, so we have something that looks like this, which is exactly what we have in mind. And we're almost done. We want to be able to, actually select and deselect item or deselect items from here as well. And what we need to do now is to ask for a view model to be injected inside of the screen as well. And so just like we did in the group partner picker screen, we're going to create an observed object as a dependency injection. And, we're going to say view model, right? And it's going to be off top of what? Chat partner picker view model. And instead of using the placeholders here, we're going to say view model selected chat partners. And in here, again, we're going to say view model undo item selection. And remember, this undo item selection method is what's going to be responsible for both item selection and deselection. So we could easily do that here. And this is going to yell at us. And for the Xcode preview, we're just going to initialize the chat partner picker view model. And we're also going to get an error inside of our group partner picker screen. Or actually not the group partner picker screen, the chat partner picker screen. And so if we scroll all the way to the bottom where we're using our destination view right here. So we didn't get an error because we haven't created it here yet. So we're going to say new group setup screen, and it's going to ask for a view model as well. And we're just passing that view model that we already declared as a state object right up here. Okay, so our destination view inside of our chat partner picker screen, we're going to pass in the setup group chats. And here's a perfect way for us to demo everything is working. Let's create this new group. Let's select Osas and John Doe and Bob and Sophie, right? And let's click on next. Look at that. We have all four of them. Let's remove Osas from the list. Let's go back and see the selected item. Look at that. Osas is not selected here, right? What if we go back to the screen and we remove, I don't know, Bob from the list? Look at that. Again, because the chat partner picker view model is sort of the one orchestrating the business logic, we can have this functionality very nicely and cleanly. The other thing that we need to sort of figure out right now is the title and the navigation, the trailing navigation item inside of our new group setup screen. And so I'm going to come right down here. I'm going to attach another toolbar item to the screen as well, as always. And the first thing is let's add a navigation title. So I'm going to say navigation title. The navigation title is going to be what? It's going to be new group. That's just the navigation title. Let's make sure everything is working. Oh, okay. Let's wrap this inside of a navigation stack so we can see the navigation title. All right, so we have a navigation title. The next thing we need to do is add a toolbar modifier. And our toolbar modifier needs as always, I'm just going to create a toolbar content builder right here. I need to make this an extension since this is a pretty small view. And I'm going to call it trailing nav item. And it's going to return some toolbar content. Okay, and it's just a toolbar item with a placement of trailing. And the content is going to be a button. And the button is going to be with a title of create. And let's see, I'm going to make it bold. And I'm also going to use the disable functionality that we have for the disable next button, because we don't want the create button to be enabled if there's no user selected. And so here's what I mean by that. If I exit out of Xcode and I pull up the simulator again, if we remove all of the users, the create button should disable, because we can't create a new group chats if there's no chat partners. So let's make sure we undo that as well. So I'm going to say view model disable next button. And I'm going to take this and put it inside of our toolbar closure. So I'm going to say trailing navigation item. Okay, we have a little bit of an issue here. Interesting. Why is it saying create? There's something odd going on here, guys. Hold on. Well, let's run it on the simulator, make sure everything is working, and we can validate if our assumption is correct. So the simulator is loading. Sometimes it takes a second. All right, we have a simulator. Let's go create a new channel, new group. Let's select Osas and John Doe and Jane Smith. Let's go to next. Okay, so obviously this is a problem because we have this sort of functionality going on here, which I'm not sure why that is. I'm going to do a little bit of debugging really quickly, and we're going to address this issue. All right, my bad, guys. So the reason we're having this, double creation right here, this double navigation title, or this, buggy navigation title, is because we're placing the toolbar inside of the list, and it's supposed to be outside of the list, because remember, the parent view is a navigation stack. So sorry about that. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to append those modifiers to the list itself. And if we resume our SwiftUI preview, everything should be good now. Look at that. That's what I mean. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take this list background color, and I'm going to apply it to the section because I still want that to be true. All right. So now let's run our SwiftUI preview, our SwiftUI simulator. Let's make sure everything is working. If we click on this, new group, select a couple of users, click on next. Look at that. The create button is enabled. And if we remove a bunch of items, the create button is disabled. If we come here and we select a bunch of items again, the create button is enabled again. And just like that, guys, we have basically created all of the components that we need to be able to create a new channel. And so in the next episode, we are going to start actually writing the backend code that is going to allow us to be able to create group channels, direct channels, and then start sending messages. I hope you guys are having fun as much as I am. Please leave a like and subscribe. It means the world to me. I'll see you guys in the next episode.